I want to bring you in here, Devitta. You are the, let me get it right, the director of the Black Women's Coalition to End Violence. And you have man, what's really you would just say a very painful story. When we talk about it, not only basically the love of your life murdered, your son murdered, and your brother murdered, and so the impacts around violence has been, it's kind of holistic all the way around you. And instead of kind of running away from things, you've taken all of this pain and you've channeled it into being a resource for other people in the community. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your journey?
It's been a tough journey, for one, but thank you for having me under such horrible circumstances. I want to send out my love and condolences to all the families that have been impacted. When you hear 70 shots and 2 people murdered on one night, and I get called into another meeting the next morning, it's hard to talk about money and budgets, when that there are 2 mothers that are crying because they lost their child. So, and actually that date, October 3rd, is the day that my son was shot. So when I seen that date on there, it brought back a lot of painful memories. My first devastation that I experienced was the love of my life. His name was Hadis Prater. We called him Jaime. He was killed in 2001. He was murdered. And I mean, I was devastated. I was shocked, burying him and having to, that tragedy that I suffered. I don't know if I've ever recovered from that. I mean, it was devastating to me. And then I fast forward to 2010, I learned that my son was shot. And I learned that my son was shot the same week that my twin brother was sentenced to 48 years in prison. So not only was I suffering, I feel like I suffered 2 losses of the womb. I suffered the loss of the person that I had shared the womb with, and I lost the person who I birthed out of my womb, which was my son. He was shot during a brawl with some other young men that they had an altercation with. A fight broke out, then guns broke out, and it kind of was like a shootout, I guess. And the young man who shot my son didn't intend to shoot him. He actually felt that he was trying to protect him, and he shot him unintentionally. He, it took a few days, and I finally just, released him off of life support. And that was one of the hardest things. That was another tragedy. I did a lot of anti-violence work after his death. And, it just, and then fast forward into 2016, my brother is released from prison, and then he's killed by the police. So, then I started doing police accountability, police reform. And I think one of my ways of responding to trauma is to find the solutions and to try to address them. And so I'm a warrior. There's a warrior side of me. There's a fighter in me that's saying, I'm just not just going to take it. I'm going to figure out a way, to combat some of this stuff so that I don't have to see another mother in the type of pain that I experienced. So anyway, ask me all the questions.
No, and actually we've got some photos here. They're playing early on. You can hear me, Devitta?
I can hear you, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Now we're playing some. I think we're playing some photos here on screen. It kind of goes through this chronological order of you've explained around tragedies in your life, especially around violence here. So you're working now on a lot of different things. People in the community know you as, like, informally, you're somebody who just shows up. You know what I'm saying? around these issues, you're somebody who shows up. But also now with the Black Women's Coalition to End Violence, can you tell us a little bit about that? And what keeps you going forward in this space?
Well, really, what keeps me going forward is my faith. I can't say enough about, I don't think any one person who has suffered this much loss could just get up and just keep going. It has to be, some higher power that I submit to. So I have to say that first. It's definitely my faith. The Black Women's Coalition to End Violence is really, I kind of saw myself in spaces where I was telling my story a lot, and really, and for the most part, feeling like I was amplifying other communities' perspectives of how to address these issues, and not really the perspective of Black mothers who are suffering so much of the tragedies and the losses. I was seeing where we weren't having a voice and where we didn't have power. I see, like your mom, for instance, Mother Walden, with the Silent War campaign, who's been for decades, in the trenches and really being siloed. I've seen a lot of mothers where we're trying to parent beyond the grave and trying to honor and to uplift the respect for our children, but we're doing that siloed and disconnected from one another. So what I decided to do was to do a united front of Black women who are the matriarchs of the community. I mean, you got people. We've been having some of our Mary Flowers going inside the prisons, and Janet Preston. These are women that have been carrying and laboring in these communities for decades. And yet when there's a policy decision, or when there's a tragedy, or when money is coming through, nobody's asking the mothers anything. Nobody's asking the Black women, what are our decisions? Or there's no accountability to Black women. And so that's, I wanted us, number one, to be connected. I wanted us to build relationships, and I wanted us to have a united front. So when your mother was the first person I called, was like, Mother Walden. And she was like, well, I've been doing this data, and I've been trying to get the Silent War campaign, and nobody comes to help me. And I was just like, well, wait a minute, let's do something, and let's bring some other powerful Black women behind you, and let's push some of these things that you have been trying to address for all these years, but let's do it together. And let's do it, across generations too. So we'll get some of the young women. Right now, all of my friends that I grew up with, like Donita and all of us, I knew Donita over 27 years ago. Donita was actually best friends with Jaime, my boyfriend. So we're all burying our kids right now. We were burying our babies' dads, and now we're burying our kids. And I have over 8. I can't even tell you how many friends I have that have lost their children, their daughters and sons. And if they have, some of them have survived, some of them didn't make it. But it's to the point now where it's Black male genocide. It's genocide. And so just like if you see in Hotel Rwanda, when they were slaughtering the Hutus and the Tutsi tribes were slaughtering each other, that is exactly what I'm seeing right here in America, is that this is genocide. And so there's no way I can sit here and not try to address it, and not try to pull our young people out of the fire, or out of the danger that we're seeing and the injustices that we're seeing in our communities. No other race of people would tolerate this type of death. It should not be tolerated. And so anyway, so yeah, it's
powerful what you're saying, and actually I'm glad that you're joining us again in the third hour when we talk about solutions, because when I've talked to you before, I know from the parent in the home, there's a lot of advice that you give, but then also I see here that you guys are organizing on a higher level, on a policy level as well. Before I end this segment here with you, is there any kind of advice that because we have parents who are suffering these losses, like you said, all the time. Well, what's some advice that you might be able to give
to parents, or to the community? To parents that may be concerned, like even some of the women that have joined the coalition are women who are concerned about their sons. And that's one of the things that I keep trying to tell people, is that we're just not afraid of the police killing our sons. We're also afraid of putting our kids on the bus and from them not getting shot by one of their own peers. And so one of the things that I do is that, I'm a non-negotiable, I'm an old school parent. I do room checks. If you live here, I'm checking everything in this room. I'm checking backpacks. I'm checking all that. I'm checking who your friends are. Unprotected social interaction is one of the contributing factors in my son's death. My son knew that there were some people he would not bring around me, and he didn't bring them around me because I asked questions. I asked, who are you? Who is your mom? What school do you go to? I'm asking all of those type of questions. And this kid who shot my son was a kid I had never met. but yet people say they were best friends, they were homies, they were close. But I did not know this kid. I had never seen him before a day of my life. And so unprotected social interaction is the times that your kids are away from you. When they are away from you, who are they with? And I am constantly, I'm telling you, my kids don't spend the night at everybody's house. They don't go everywhere. And so, you know, and right now we got a different type of generation where parents are giving kids guns or smoking weed with the kids and saying it's okay as long as you do it at home. You know, I mean, I can't tell you how to parent, but I can tell you, you know, that if you're passing on harmful behaviors and habits, you know, you might want to rethink that. You know, how are you encouraging your children? And again, I'm not trying to be your friend. I'm trying to save your life. So, you know, I'm just one of them parents that, you know, I don't have to be your friend. We can be friends later, you know, as long as I can save your life. But anyway, that's about the best advice I can give.
You sound like my mama. I couldn't get anything past her. You know, my mom was there. Hey, we gotta let you go, Devitta, but we're gonna catch you in hour number 3. We'll take a short break right now. When we come back, we'll have Alicia Dasa.